Hi, this is Matt at State of Flux here for the fan commentary for Promising Young Woman. I am joined here tonight by guest commentator.
Hi, I'm Amber, and I am a fan of this film, Promising Young Woman.
It is a glorious movie I'm really excited to talk to you about. So we're going to be pressing play right now. We're watching it on the Blu-ray edition, but pull up whichever version you wish, and I will be playing it right in the soon after I set up subtitles. Okay, we're going to be playing it without sound so that we don't get dinged by YouTube or for any copyright claim. But we're going to be playing it right now. Alright, Promising Young Woman. How did you first come about this movie?
Ooh, okay, so like years before it came out, somewhere I just saw a trailer for it, and I was like, this looks so good. Carey Mulligan was like just kind of coming onto the scene, and just the premise of it, I was like, yes, like I love a revenge plot type, like women take charge, love it. And then I never saw it again. Like I didn't see a trailer, I didn't see promos, I didn't see a release date, and I was just like, this disappeared. When is it coming out? I want to see it so bad. And then again, like a year or two later, it popped up again, and I saw a trailer for like the first time. And I was like, oh man, it's finally happening. There's a release date. It's coming. So I don't know how it happened that like I saw this weird trailer way before it dropped. But then I was like in again, and I told everyone about it. I was like, this trailer's back. Like I thought I was crazy, like that I had seen this trailer for a film that didn't exist somehow. Yeah, and then I was stoked. I was in from the beginning.
So, I discovered the movie. Well, I guess we should talk about this scene because I want to address the phenomenal casting throughout the entire film of the male characters that she goes home with. Because all of them are incredibly likable actors that are always like fun and funny and aloof and like traditional good guy kind of roles. And how they are juxtaposed with the kind of human reality that this movie is trying to address with that kind of person. The casting on point, and what a great opening shot for her.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, this movie, I work at a movie theater, and we got this exact poster. And when the poster arrived, I was like, what is this movie? This is a fantastic poster. And I immediately YouTubed the trailer, and I was like convinced I had just seen what was going to be my favorite movie of the year. And spoiler alert, it ended up being that. But the date was January of 2020.
Ooh, rough.
And it was slated for an April release. I think I actually wrote that down. It was set to come out on April 17th of 2020, and it got postponed to Christmas Day of that same year. But Minnesota was closed at the time, so I didn't see the movie until about a week later, first of the year or so. We went to Wisconsin, which was open and
Good old
open as could
Wisconsin.
be.
Yeah. Do whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to 2 different theaters to see it actually because I did have like a movie pass, but I couldn't get like a seat ahead of time for that. So we went to a theater and we got there and we tried to get tickets, and it was like a sold out show. And I was like, well, this is really upsetting because I wanted to see this. I was so excited. But then I was like, how good is it that like it's a sold out show already? Like people are clearly coming to see this. So hopped on like the app real quick, found one like 10 minutes away, had like a half hour later start time, and we got into that one, which was great. So like we still had to see it same day, but yeah.
It's it did perform well at my movie theater at the time. We only had like the 25% capacity, so doing well at those times is still filling up a small amount.
Yeah.
But the fact that people were coming out to this, and this is aimed at the audience that was most reticent to return to theaters, and the fact that it was still pulling people and giving that draw was impressive. And I don't think that's anything we've seen really since for this specific demographic, it's rare that these type of movies do well even now. Ignore my cat; he cameos in every one of these videos. But yeah, Emerald Fennell wrote and directed this film. She did masterwork with writing these characters because all of them feel so like real, and the way that they transition to from being like helper to predator.
Yeah.
Seems
I think
so real.
it's so like slimy but charming almost, the way that
Yeah.
Adam Brody in that scene just is like, oh hey, we're already in the car, like my place is right here, why not? And like even the cab driver like acknowledges that like this woman is clearly like incapacitated. She doesn't say yes, she
Yeah.
doesn't answer at all, and he just says yeah, let's go, here's the address, and the cabbie's like, man, just let me know where we're going. But he clearly knows he's doing something wrong. Adam Brody's character knows it's shady. And then he gets to his house and he pours her like an insane drink and has like a
Yeah.
tiny one himself. Like, he's the good guy and he's doing like these nice things and he's saying them so sweetly and he's acting like a gentleman, but
Yeah.
it's absolutely underhanded.
Yeah, it's all ulterior motive. Like the shot of him pouring the two drinks is just wicked. And this is also one of my favorite moments because
It's so awkward.
Yeah, she is giving nothing, and he's all into it.
He even pulls back and he's like, wow, like it was this amazing, just romantic kiss, and it's so sexy. Totally not. She's, you know.
He does. He says, "Wow, I didn't notice that."
Yeah, he does. He's like, wow.
Yeah, she gave such a good performance, and that's what, like, this movie. She was nominated for best actress. I was rooting for her so hard.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, not to take anything away from like Frances McDermott or whatever, she won for Nomadland, but
I think it's very difficult to act convincingly drunk in a way that's not like over the top and like goofy and falling into like comedy.
Yeah.
You know, this is like very realistic, like
yeah,
slurring and slow and just like there but kind of not there.
yeah.
It's so good.
And if you have any criticisms of it, you can easily write it off as she's acting like she's drunk. She's not actually drunk.
Literally, yeah.
Oh.
That beat job is so good here.
Yeah, that is just like what a great shot of her looking directly into the camera.
I think one of my favorite parts is that, like, from the trailer, before you've seen this, if it's your first watch,
Yeah.
you kind of think, well, like, maybe the twist is that she's going out and she's finding these guys who are sleazy,
Yeah.
and she kills them, right?
Yeah.
You think, like, maybe she's a femme fatale,
100%.
and you don't see what happens with Brody, you just see him go, like, kind of like, uh-oh, and then the next scene is her walking barefoot down the street with, like, blood on her leg, you think, and,
Yeah.
like, running down her arm, and then it turns out it's just a hot dog, but, like, how fun for, like, just tiniest second you think she's murdering people.
And it goes on for a while.
Quite a
'cause,
while.
like, pretty soon we're going to be coming up to the shot of her, like, putting the little tallies in the notebook, and some of
Yeah.
them are blue, but some are red, and you're like,
It's just
wait,
like-
did she kill the red ones?
Right.
Like,
It's so kind of oddly fun, like
yeah.
macabre fun. Like, is she murdering guys? Is she not?
I mean, it's kind of a genius like misdirect, because the entire premise of this film is sold as it's a woman revenge drama in the same vein as I Spit on Your Grave or something like that. But like at the end of the day, that's not real life, and this kind of tackles it from a really almost healthy perspective.
Right. I think it's very like cathartic in a way to watch this sort of like revenge fantasy play out, because you know how many people go through like a justice system that never gets justice if they ever get to a justice system.
Yeah.
And so you get to watch this and you get to like sort of take a little like pride and joy in that like maybe justice is being served in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, what this is kind of like advocating is restorative justice, right? Like confronting those who have done wrong.
Yeah.
She goes through and through, eventually we'll get to the chapter heads of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, where she goes out to these 5 specific individuals and confronts them head on in a way where it's done entirely through communication and not necessarily action, until she makes kind of the wicked decision herself.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
And I think these very early parts of the film, like before she does get to the chapter heads, where she's like going after the people who were involved in the incident that sort of like set her on this path. Before that, before she kind of hatches that plan, she's doing this thing with the guys where she's going out and she's sort of like trying to prevent that from happening again, or like coping with it like the only way that she really knows how, or the only like thing that she feels like she can do is like go out and get these like sleazy guys, hopefully to stop doing that.
Yeah.
At the very least, like humiliating them and scaring them, which is
Yeah.
a pretty good consolation prize, if not keeping them from being disgusting in the future.
Yeah, totally. And it's like really empowering, and I really appreciate her method. There's a lot of like logic to it. We didn't touch on her, but I liked that actress. She's from.
Laura Cox.
Is she from like?
She was in Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like her. She's good, and she's really good in this throughout the thing. She doesn't have a lot to do, but she's always really memorable.
Yeah. She's definitely like she's really like her only friend, right? Cassie's only friend in this, and she's her boss, but
Yeah.
she's there, she's someone to talk to, she's someone who gives her like stability.
Mm-hmm. She has excellent fits throughout the entire movie. I want to point that
I
out
could
too.
like spend an hour talking about like the color and the style in this, and the way that like all these very feminine and very like pure and innocent girly clothes and prints and hairdos that she has throughout. It's so good.
Well, like a lesser filmmaker would have established the fact that this is a woman that is deeply depressed and traumatized through the colors of blue and black and
Yeah.
deep purples, and you don't get that at all. That's not who she is.
No.
She radiates these colors and flowers and pink and bows in her hair.
I mean, she's like literally set up as like an angelic character, and like even throughout there's imagery of like it looks like she's got wings on or like a crown. There's a beautiful shot, and I'll point it out later, when she's in bed, but the headboard behind her is just like these glowing wings, and it happens several times with different furniture and different like artwork behind her, where it's just like this holy like glow and halo.
I recognize the halo that's later in the coffee shop, but
Yeah,
I've never noticed the wings. Point those
I'll
out.
point out all the furniture. Like literally, once you see it, you're like, oh my god, it's everything she sits on is actually wings. But it's so good.
The framing on this and the lighting and the coloring, especially the lighting in a lot of the movie, is great. This scene is so good.
Bo Burnham is so charming in this. Like,
I'd never seen him act before this.
Really?
I
Okay.
had seen
his
8th
stand-up.
grade, and I thought
God,
8th grade was the like in the top 5 movies of 2018.
8th grade ruined my life, but like in a way that I'm on board with. Like, I never want to watch it again. I've seen it once, and I don't want to do it. But it was perfect, and so I feel like I don't need to.
It's literally a masterpiece of filmmaking, and that's one of the prime examples of a great first time movie.
Yeah.
Along with this, I might add.
I mean, and then he goes on to do like Inside. So like
Yeah.
he is a powerhouse of creativity, and like his acting is on par with like his directing and his comedy, and it's so good.
I had seen his stand-ups
Yeah.
over COVID. So when he showed up in this, I was like, oh, hey, it's that guy. I didn't know he could act.
Yeah.
The Emerald Fennel is the blowjob
Oh
girl
my
there.
gosh, I love that.
Yeah. I thought that was cool.
The perfect blowjob lips, everyone.
Yeah.
What every girl wants.
It's actually a relatively solid little performance. It feels very real for like a YouTube
really
tutorial.
Is, though. I'm sure it exists.
I'm sure it is.
It actually exists.
And this is another like cool out of left
So
field.
good.
He never plays a character like this.
No.
He's always the likable guy, but
Yeah.
hot damn.
They did such a good job of like picking these guys that we don't associate with being like the bad guy, but like that's the whole idea, is that like they're all bad guys, or like they
Yeah.
could all be bad guys.
Yeah. Appearances are not what they seem. And that's, like, this is probably the closest you get to a person that you could see him at the bar and be like, yeah, he's probably not safe to go home with.
Yeah. I don't know, the guy like, he's got cocaine in his pocket, maybe not, but.
Yeah. He's got a lumberjack shirt on.
Wait till he tells you about his novel.
That part killed me in the theater when I saw it. Oh, that's just the worst.
This is so uncomfortable. I can't. I just like don't want someone else's fingers in my mouth at all,
That's
let
the
alone
worst.
like covered in cocaine.
The look on her
It's
face
just,
too.
cause she's like, oh shit, like.
Yeah, and the way the trailer framed it is that clearly she is murdering these people. And it's around this point in the movie where you start to doubt that she's actually a killer and that she's actually just fucking with these people who are like fucking with her.
Yeah. I feel like they set up the guys too in such a good way, like starting with the Adam Brody's character where he's like this business guy and in a suit and he's just trying to take her home and be nice, and like then he gets her a drink and he takes her to the bedroom, and that's how that plays out. She stops him, right? And then there's this guy who's like a notch more like creepy and gross, and he's got like the cocaine out and he's getting her to do drugs that she doesn't want. And at this point she asks for water, pretends to be passed out, and he literally screams at her to wake her up. It's so funny.
It is. It's pretty
But
hilarious.
it's just like that next level of creep, right? Like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. He is like just unforgivable. I mean, they all are. But yeah. This one is especially rough to watch. I want to go back to that the Adam Brody character. I almost said Adrian Brody. The Adam Brody character, when we first meet him, he's with a group of guys who are all kind of laughing and joking, and how that comes into play later on in the movie, and it is a perfect parallel to, for us to start with, that we're going to end with.
Yep.
And that flying cat over
Yeah,
there.
you didn't see that, but that cat had mad hops. Oh my god. And I think like it's kind of annoying but important that she's always very vocal. You know, there are some parts when she was with Adam Brody's character where she just didn't say anything, and he took that as like a yes. But every time they start to get like sexually harassing,
Yeah.
she says no, she says stop, she says I'm asleep, I'm too drunk.
Yeah. She never once gives any kind of clearance whatsoever.
No.
So there is no way to misconstrue what happened. And that is...
This is a perfect conversation, right? Where
Yes.
she's like, oh my god, you're not drunk. And she's like, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah. And then
shouldn't
he's
you
just
want to sleep with me while I'm sober?
immediately wants her to leave. And that is so, so rough. This guy's set decoration too, whoever did this. Like, I believe he lives there.
Yep.
With the dream catchers all around. Those candles are pretty cool
And he has
too.
like, you know, the bead curtain.
Yeah.
It's so great.
I like that she also low blows him about the about the book too.
Oh my god, it's just so hard to be a guy right now. Don't you think?
Oh, when she grills him, what are my hobbies? What's my name? Oh,
It's like, what do I do for a living? Oh, that one's hard. Let me try something else.
yeah. And she literally just handles this like a queen. This is just...
I just love this part where she's just like, whoa, right? Because he starts to get like defensive and angry, and that's such like a
Yeah.
male thing to do when like a
Yeah.
woman raises her voice in any situation, just to be like, you're crazy, you're hysterical.
Yeah. like, I said this at the time, but if this had not won for screenplay, because each of these conversations of like the key 5 scenes are all structured so perfectly. There's not a wasted line, there's not a moment that is unnecessary or unneeded.
Yep.
It doesn't ever go too far, it toes the line exactly where it needs to be. And so if I would have flipped the table if this had not won for screenplay.
Yeah, I was very nervous that it wouldn't, and I was just like, please, like, give it to something that actually has like that, I don't know, life behind it, you know, and it
Yeah.
felt so original and so new.
Like, there was absolutely nothing as original as this that was nominated. So I was like, just on that value, you have to go with this one. Yeah, that little sting about the novel.
Sounds terrible, by the way.
And I would like to think that she does actual change. Like, he's not gonna fall into his own behaviors.
Whether or not it's like an actual internal change where he thinks about what he's done and it turns over a new leaf, or she literally says like, be careful the next time you go out, Neil. Just like leaving that little breadcrumb of like, maybe I'm not the only one.
Yeah, that line is pretty boss. Jennifer Coolidge, I had forgotten was in this.
Yeah,
so.
surprisingly like dramatic for her, like a more serious role.
She is a tremendous actress. Has been like for years.
Oh yeah.
And I like that because of White Lotus, she's getting a lot of attention.
I'm so glad she's kind of back in the spotlight.
Yeah.
I think after Legally Blonde, even though perfect trilogy, no notes, and her character is just so great, it was just so easy to put her in that box of like, she can only be this like ditzy kind of dumb, you know, all over the place character. And I'm not saying she doesn't sort of have that quality in White Lotus, but you know, she's definitely talented and can do more.
Yeah, for sure. She is awesome. The first thing I ever saw her in was American Pie.
Of course, yes.
And
Stifler's mom.
yeah, and she's great in that. Like, I think she has 2 scenes in that movie, and she's great. She's a completely perfect, like, provocateur kind of character that she plays it so insanely well that I was kind of surprised to find out she was known for more broad comedy because she was so restrained. And then I saw her in the Christopher Guest movies, and I was just like, what is this magic? Like, she's so good.
I mean, here, you know, her daughter is turning 30, and like, we don't yet know why she might be at home, why she does this on her nights off, like why she's working in a coffee shop at 30. Now that, no offense to anyone working in a coffee shop at 30, but like, it's obviously, we're setting up the fact that she's like stunted somehow, right? That it's a problem that she's not more ambitious.
Yeah.
And they want her out of the house.
Yeah. The gift that they give her is pretty epic. Okay, so what would you guess what the budget of this film
Oh,
is?
jeez.
Oh my god, my dog.
Can I have like a range?
Um,
I feel like I don't know enough about movie budgets. I'm either gonna like say something stupid high or stupid low. Like $1 million, is that stupid high? I feel like that's stupid high.
No, that's
Okay.
actually not.
Okay,
It's,
$1 million.
This is a $10 million movie, and I
Okay.
assume a lot of that.
I feel like that's stupid low.
No.
I tried.
Yes. I will explain that in 1 minute. I'm gonna go address my dog by throwing her out the window.
Poor Belle.
You're a little rock star, but heavens.
Well, here's Bo Burnham again, which I love. I'm all for it. He's, again, I can't overstate how charming he is as this character. He comes in and he sort of like takes down Cassie's guard, right? She's always super guarded. She clearly has a secret nightlife. Obviously doesn't trust men, and this guy comes in. This is the second time he drank a coffee that she spit in, and he still came back. And now he's like making jokes about it. about texting the fake number that she gave him and stopping just shy of having like text sex with an oil rig worker. So he plays this character so well, someone who's like meant to sort of bring her out of whatever like dark place she's clearly in, or she wouldn't be going out at night doing the things that she's doing.
Why, dog? Why must you? Yeah, she plays the, like, I don't want to be involved with this guy, but he's charming me insanely well here. And he is so fucking charming. He just is never not charming when he's supposed to be in this movie. He obviously has a turn, but until that moment,
Spoiler alert. Just kidding.
he's just so perfect.
Yeah.
Perfectly cast.
Their chemistry is wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. I firmly believe that authentically. Back to the budget. So, the budget on this movie was $10 million.
Okay.
In doing my research, they chose to film in LA, which is why it was as expensive as it was. Love that dress, by the way.
Some more soft florals.
Yeah, totally. They chose that so they could get those first choice actors in each of those roles. They didn't have to transport anybody, which was probably wise. But the money
absolutely pays for itself, I think.
Yeah, the money is put to good use because these actors that they get are so perfect, and I don't know if this movie would have worked if you had a no-name in a lot of those roles.
You definitely needed, at the very least, the guys that she brings home to be known actors, and again, those actors that we know as being like nice guys or like not playing a villain, maybe like some teen drama angst, but like definitely those guys that have shown up in like other rom-coms.
Yes.
And like, you know, situations where we see them being good and decent and definitely don't think of them as sexual predators.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, casting the dude from the OC as your first one is perfect.
And then McLovin.
McLovin, exactly.
Harmless, right? Like, sure, maybe Superbad, not the most harmless movie, but
his character, like, you don't expect him to be the predatory kind of character. It's great casting. So, this movie's a little more on the expensive side, largely because of that, and pays off. My concern was how much the movie made. I think this movie, had it come out pre-pandemic, probably would have done insanely well. As it was, stateside it made $6.5 million, which during COVID times isn't bad.
Right, when you're only doing half theaters, if that.
Yes. However, worldwide, it essentially doubled its budget. It made $18.9 million. So
I'm gonna buy 7 copies of it just in case.
I know, right?
Like, it's so good.
I supported this so hard.
I want like Emerald to make 17,000 more movies for me to watch.
Last I heard, she was going to be doing Zatanna for DC, but with the DC movie shakeups, I don't know if she still exists in that.
Here's like the first kind of crack in the armor that we might see with Bo's character here.
100%.
Yeah, so he pulls like that kind of, oh look, we're already at my place, which is what Adam Brody's character did in the cab earlier.
Yeah.
And so immediately her guard right back up, just like her body language shifts instantaneously.
Yeah, her performance of being so like kind of looking at him with so much care and stuff completely shifts in like a fraction of a second. It's great. We were talking about this ahead of starting this movie, but you were like, this appears to be, upon first viewing, the one and only time he's going to be.
I just love that. I love when she kicks the garbage can.
Yeah.
Because like, I just like feel that so far in my core of like, here's this good guy, she let herself trust him just like the tiniest bit, probably the first person in so long.
Yeah.
And he does this thing where she thinks like, oh, he's just like everyone else, and she just like has to like rage kick a garbage can because, you know, that happens sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, that's her cathartic release right there. I don't know why Pennywise left his balloon there. That shot always
Very funny
jacked me up.
there.
Look at there's a lot of biblical like language in this,
Yeah,
in almost
there's
every
a
scene. It's
Virgin
always on
Mary
her
right there,
side,
yeah.
too. Once you pointed that out, holy crap, I'm seeing it a lot. There was another shot earlier, too, where they had something that kind of looked like a crossfire.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's super deliberate.
You kind of see here, like, she's going to sort of apologize. She knows that maybe she overreacted.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you kind of see that growth. You're like, oh, she's growing up. She's going to get out of her parents' house soon. She's living her life. But, like, we don't yet know why she's, like, not been living her life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the way that the story unfolds, usually in these kind of movies, you get a scene very early on where you'd have like a flashback or something, and it would display everything you need to know. But you get the story told to you through small little increments, and a lot of it, you have to do the work yourself to figure out exactly what happened.
Yes, it's not very explicit. Even now, there were like a couple times where I'm like, am I sure that's what happened? But then like very late, they like confirm it. I'm like, yes, I knew, like, I knew there was a reason. I thought that was what happened, but.
Yeah. It's good, and it asks the viewer to stay engaged, which is important for a story like this, because if you are a person that might be set in your ways, you don't want to, you might be putting guard up for yourself to be very dismissive of things. But the way the film goes about telling the story is smart in that it keeps you focused in, so it can tell you what it's trying to say, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, it's really masterfully like unfolded
Yeah.
as it goes. You get like these little nuggets, and you know, at first you're just like, oh, maybe something happened to her.
Yeah, 100%.
That, you know, she doesn't like men, she doesn't trust men, or maybe, you know, nothing happened to her and she just doesn't like men and doesn't trust men. But the way that like the story unfolds, the characters like kind of come out of the woodwork and like piece the story together for you, and like when you finally figure it out, it's just like, oh my god, like I'm also going to probably go to a bar and maybe murder a man.
Yeah, I feel that. I like that little exchange there about the bleach, if they have sex on any of the boards and stuff like that.
But like, again, this is just like setting Bo up to be like this very charming character. He's like meeting her only friend really, which is her boss, and like having these like little banter back and forth, and he's like taking kind of the tough love coming from her friends, like, be good to her, stop killing children, clean up if you have sex on my counters.
Yeah. It's very well written. But like, in a traditional kind of revenge story that you get, it's always the person seeking revenge of what happened to themselves. Mm-hmm. And so that's what you would come to this expecting. And when you are given the details slightly different, we've only had one hint of it so far, and it's the goodbye Nina, or goodnight Nina.
Yeah. And this is the first scene where we kind of get more about her college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ryan just says like, and that other girl. And so like we know that there's a friend of hers from the past she clearly shuts down a little bit when it's mentioned, and all of these other people from like their school clique, from their med school days. Clearly something is happening here.
The way they light her when they talk about Nina and stuff makes her look dramatically younger, and it happens repeatedly when they're talking about that character.
Ooh, here it is.
To transport you to the past.
Not to interrupt you, but here's
that
like
totally
the first scene. It looks like she's got wings. It looks like she's got a crown on, and it's just like, you know, flooding her with light.
How the hell did I not notice that?
But like every time in her bed, several couches throughout her home, they all have that like sloping backdrop.
That's fabulous. That's cool. She's like this weird a warrior angel or something. And this is where we're introduced to Al Monroe, which is an important step into where this story trajectory is ultimately going to go.
And I think it's important to like know that prior to Ryan saying anything, she hadn't been like looking up these people.
Yeah.
She hadn't been keeping tabs on their life. So up until that point, like going out and meeting these guys and like making them feel stupid and humiliating them, all that was like what she was doing to like cope with whatever happened.
Yeah.
But like he drops this information about how they're just like living normal, happy, perfect lives, and something like switches.
Yeah. Like, her revenge plot to this point has not been a personal one.
Mm-hmm.
This is the moment, and it comes up here with a great big one, that it becomes personal. She looks very Taylor Swifty right there. Yeah. I also appreciate the casting of Alison Brie, because she's another one that is just innately likable, and it's rare that you have her playing a more off-putting character.
Right.
Maybe like she's played heavily textured characters that have like some poor issues and stuff about them, but the casting of her is every bit as good as the casting of the male victims we've seen thus far.
I think Allison and also later on Connie Brighton are first of all, perfect casting, right? Because Connie Brighton comes out of like Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
Like everyone loves her. She's basically the mom, right? She's Coach's wife. She's Connie Brighton. So casting them in these roles were like, not only are the women like not quote unquote good, right? But like in this situation, they actually like actively did things that were bad.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important that two women are involved in like this discussion of rape culture.
Yeah.
Because it's very much like the people who turn a blind eye, the people who don't think it's a problem, and like the women who continue to perpetuate the promising young male stereotypes.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about how great the title is, and how it just hits that sting of the promising young man, like Brock Turner case.
Yeah.
And you're right that this movie doesn't just go for the jugular, and it's not a movie that actively hates man.
Right.
It's a movie that hates this culture that we have allowed to flourish because of dismissive attitudes like hers.
Yeah.
So much so that she actively knows everything that guy did, and still chooses to be friends with him on Facebook and engage with him on a relatively consistent basis, even currently.
And like later, not to give a whole bunch away too soon if you haven't watched this yet, but like later she even says like, I can't believe we knew all of these things, saw all these things, and we thought it was funny. And so she's like admitting.
And I think that's a very real like human trait that we have is hindsight allows us to go back and view things that we've done in the past that are less good, and like what happens in this is just like way over the top. But just in general, we tend to as people make jokes and think things are hilariously funny looking back at it 5, 10, in this case like 15 years later. It's definitely not so anymore, and you do feel that like grossness that like how could we ever have found this amusing?
Yeah.
And especially in a culture where we often bring people down rather than build up, kind of thing. But yeah.
I mean, this is so great because here we're gonna get like that idea that things aren't bad until they've happened to me, right? So when she's in a situation where maybe she had a friend come to her who she does this like cry wolf thing where it's just like she was loose and she was a party animal and she drank a lot. Like, what did you think was gonna happen?
Yeah.
And like here she is sitting at this restaurant in the middle of the day. She even says, I haven't been day drunk in so long. Drinking.
Well, yeah, and the movie also does a subtle thing where she does all of the things that the men have done to her throughout the movie that we've seen to each of the characters that she preys on. This is the transition where she goes from to being an actual predator rather than just being the stopping point for predators.
Yeah.
But she's
I mean, I think it's
never
also
villainous.
important, yeah, to show that she is being a predator, but it's never in like a violent
No.
or painful or like, physically harmful way. It's psychological and it's emotional.
It's through verbal confrontation
Yeah.
always. So that's where it goes back to like the restorative kind of
Yeah.
justice. It is through confrontation and an unleashing of feeling and perspective, I guess. But you have no, as a viewer, idea what she is going to do to these people.
Nope.
And you're just kind of sitting there like kind
Well,
of rooting
right
for
now,
her.
you're just like, did she just pay this man to rape her friend?
Yeah,
Or like,
right?
maybe not a friend anymore, but yeah,
This person, like,
we're not sure. Again, just like we weren't sure if she was murdering these men. Like,
yeah. Those nails are fantastic, and it has not gone unnoticed.
I
that
came prepared with
Yeah.
my nails today. I love them so much. They're my favorite.
I was blown away when I saw that just a little bit ago. But yeah,
Again, a soft pink floral.
Yeah.
Like it's throughout. It's so spot on, and so like not overdone. She's not wearing like gauzy, flowy dresses or like
no.
it's not in your face. It just is.
And the one time she wears the dresses during that first date with Beau, and how she's very flowy with the dress until he
Yeah.
disappoints her, and then she literally closes
Yeah.
up and doesn't allow the wardrobe to fit her the way that it was before. I liked this little bit here.
Again, like the mind games that they're setting up. It's so nuts.
Yeah.
But I love it. And it's not lost on me like how smart she is, right? Like how calculating,
Yeah.
how completely like down to every detail. She has these little like plots to like confront each person and like where to go, what to say. She switches out the champagne for the ginger ale in the restaurant. She lets her friend drink all of the red wine and keep going. And now here, she's like, you're just like, what is she doing with this child? And once you find out, you're like, oh my God. Like, she
Yeah.
really just planned this so well.
Yeah, this scene, it just seems so, like, jarring upon first watch. But then when you get to what her plan was, a couple scenes from now, it's diabolical, but in the most harmless way. It's kind of genius. And I like the visual storytelling of, like, when she does bring down, what's her name, Annie from Community. Allison Brie.
Yeah.
When she brings her character down, Madison, that's what it is.
Yes.
She drops the wine and it spills over the table looking like blood.
Absolutely.
Like that's her first kill or whatever. But again, everything she's doing is genuinely harmless. It's just confronting these people and having them twist their words back at
Right.
them.
And like still until this next conversation, we don't know what happened. We still don't know
No.
why any of this has happened.
No, not at all.
Like right now, it's just kind of like this woman might be a little crazy.
Yeah, totally. It's wild. Your future starts here. That was a excellent, like, little piece of visual. Yeah, her casting is great because yeah, you're right. She also is very likable and always the kind of motherly.
And I think again, it's very important that they put a woman in this role to
Yeah.
be like Dean Walker is a woman, and so like we're trying to say like a woman in that role, a woman in power,
Yeah.
a woman who has authority, theoretically things shouldn't have gone the way that they did, but
Yeah.
they still do. And like
Yeah.
if you put a man in this role, it doesn't hit the same.
Yeah, like if you'd swapped her with Alfred Molina's characters, just like had them switch, you're right, it doesn't work as well. It's what's expected. This is the unexpected kind of storytelling, but it's so much smarter to do it this way, because the point being made lands so much harder with that character being a woman.
It just like perpetuates or like drives home the
Yes.
fact that like rape culture is so ingrained, and especially on a college campus, that, you know, people literally don't even remember
Yeah.
the accusations that get made, and these, you know, the promising young man is a doctor, an athlete, a politician, or a politician's son. Like, they are somebody or will be somebody, and
Yeah.
the women were just accusers. And it doesn't matter if they went to a male dean or a female dean, it was
Yeah.
the same situation.
Yeah, it's the system that is
Yeah.
completely broken and corrupt. The fact that she doesn't even remember her too
Yeah.
is like, I assume she's being real when she says she doesn't remember, and that is so hard to
Yeah.
digest, because that truly tells you that this is not the one and only time that has happened.
Yeah. And this conversation too, where she's
Yeah.
like, oh, if she was drinking, it's harder. Oh, she shouldn't have been drunk. Well, I'm not saying that. So there's like,
Yeah.
she's making her say the words, you know?
Yeah, like the wordplay throughout this these confrontations all throughout the entire film is perfect, because there is a string of rhetoric that we hear constantly with any kind of story similar to Nina's, and the fact that they are woven into the fabric of the film like so perfectly is genuinely remarkable. I said when it came out that this screenplay was probably the best screenplay of the past like 20 years or whatever. I still, even now, stand by that. Like, there isn't anything that was this well written, like, any time around this movie. There's maybe movies that I have liked more or something, but the writing of it itself is
Yeah.
genuinely
Like you said before,
impressive.
there's not a single conversation that has a line that could be taken out.
Yeah.
Nothing needs to be added. It's,
Yeah.
you know, packaged perfectly.
Yeah, it is genuinely great. And this is the moment where she recognizes the
You figure
danger.
out what she was doing with that child earlier.
Yeah. And,
And
the
like-
fact that she has the phone is so...
And like also, right now you're just like, she did what? Like, oh my god.
Yeah, and
Like, I get,
we still don't know the payoff of Alison Brie yet, either.
no.
So,
We just know that she gave a guy a key to a room and she left her there drunk.
yeah,
And she's been calling nonstop.
yep.
And
So,
now here she kind of kidnapped a child under false pretenses and is claiming to have dropped her off in a dorm with college boys and vodka
yeah,
as a way to get back at this woman. So you feel like, what a creep, you know? Like,
Yeah.
what an actual garbage human being would do that to a child to get back at this woman.
yeah. It's, like, her plan is diabolical, but also completely innocent.
Yep.
It's all to prove just a point of their own individual fallacies. And yeah, it could not have been presented better. Man, that shot holds on her so long. That's really good.
Yeah, I think like this might be, I don't know, the minute where she's getting this woman to say, you were right,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do what I should have done, you know, and it's kind of like hitting her that like it doesn't matter, right? Because no matter what these people do, what happened will always have happened, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no undoing what happened to Nina.
Yeah. I also want to applaud how well they establish the character of Nina. Well, we don't really get to know her. We do get to care for her because of how much she does.
Yeah.
Even though, like, we don't 100% know all the details of what went down, certainly after everything.
Yeah.
But you've heard this story enough, you can infer every bit of what happened.
Right.
And also leaving it, like, off the table, you can bring your own personal stories and stuff to it because chances are there's some experience in this arena, and that does make Nina more personal to you by not saying everything.
Yeah, it's kind of like Nina is anyone watching and also like anyone that you know. Like it could be, she could be a stand-in for anybody.
Yeah. This road rage piece of shit is just the worst. This is
I don't understand why this man would like pull up next to you and stay there yelling at you in the other lane and like doesn't go still.
Yeah.
Still there yelling at you instead. I'm glad he does because I love watching it, but.
Yeah, me too. This is the one part where this feels like a movie more than any other part, which feels like you're just sitting in on real life.
Well, this is like this is a scene that like lets you indulge in that fantasy, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how many people have you like wanted to do that to? And of course don't, because it's real life. But like this film lets you sort of imagine what that might have been like to unload on this douchebag.
Yeah. Even the like trains behind her are bright pink and stuff. I didn't notice that before either. But yeah, no, it's true. This does have the fantasy fulfillment without making her character completely unhinged.
Yep.
But you are seeing glimpses of where she's willing to go in the future. This does set that up. But you're right. Like, the reality of that moment is, like, she gets out of the car. He either tries to, like, get her down with the car, or he just speeds right off. Pardon me. At this point in the movie, you're just rooting for these two to get together, because it's the only thing that grounds her away from her kind of vendetta. Even though you want her to do that, you're rooting for her to kind of succeed too.
Yeah.
From a parental perspective,
you don't know, obviously, like, how many pieces to her little plan exists, and you don't know, like, what her real end game is here yet. And I don't even think she knows really what, the end game is here. But you're just, like, hoping that she'll get what she needs out of it, and then go back and have, like, a normal, like, healthy relationship with Bo, because you're just like, look how cute he is. He came by to take you to a movie.
Yeah.
Here's, like, that devil angel situation again, too, right? So, like, when she's not out at the clubs, she's in that floral, the pink, the pretty light pastel colors, and every time she's out at the clubs, it's black, it's navy, it's these sequins, right? It's makeup all over the place so she can look super sloppy. Her hair is, like, done up crazy earrings. Like, they very much play with that, like, angel-devil dynamic.
Yeah, they definitely do. They do it really well here, too. I like this guy. This guy is...
I always thought it was funny that he picks her up, because you're like, did Adam Brody not tell you what happened with that? Like, was he too embarrassed to be like, oh, I was sexually assaulting a woman and she yelled at me, don't pick her up at a bar? Like, did he admit that?
Yeah, totally. I like how she shifts, like, very suddenly, too. And how this guy just slowly catches on to it.
It's like, what's happening here?
Yeah. When this happened the first time I saw the movie, like, everybody in the theater was like, oh, man. Like, just the...
He can't catch a break. He can't catch a break. He seems nice.
Yeah, the soft, like, intake of, like, oh, shit, she just fucked everything up. But,
But, like, at the end of the day, like, this is, like, a suspense thriller, I think maybe it's labeled as, but also a comedy. But it's also, like, a rom-com in these moments where, like, the audience that's here to see this film is also the audience that is like here for the rom-com, right? So like
Yeah.
we want the revenge plot, but we also want her to end up with Bo
Yeah.
at the end.
It's a weird juxtaposition because really, yeah, this is two movies. This is a revenge thriller and a rom-com.
Yeah.
And the payoff is actually pretty strong both ways. And the fact that they do cast a lot of rom-com people in it. We haven't touched on Max Greenfield yet.
Oh, God.
He shows up later.
Perfect.
Yeah.
When that scene comes, I have so many thoughts about Max Greenfield.
Me too.
It's such a good scene.
She is so intimidating the way she was shot there.
Yeah.
Like how incredibly
Like when
commanding.
when she's not slumped over, right?
Yeah.
Stumbling up on her full height, straight back in heels.
Yeah.
And just telling this man, like, I'm not the only one who's out here doing shit like this.
Yeah.
Watch out. And he literally runs away. It's my favorite.
I also liked, we skipped over it, when he pulls out the phone and he's like, oh man, that charge is too much. And he's like, we're gonna walk.
It's only a mile. That's fine, right? Literally, she's clinging to
Yeah.
him.
He's dragging her.
Yeah.
Alfred Molina is one of my favorite actors. He's not in nearly enough movies, but whenever he's in a movie, he's always the absolute best thing on screen. And he is so good and so vulnerable in this scene.
Yeah, that's a thing I love about this scene, is obviously her plan with all of these people is to go in and basically humiliate them or hurt them or scare them or, whatever. And so in this scene, we find out he's the lawyer who basically, like, dug up enough dirt to, like, not send the bad men away, right?
Yeah.
And to, like, blame the women who were the victims of these men. And it could have very easily been a scene where he says, sorry, that's law, like, that's my job, you know what? They didn't do anything wrong, like, these women shouldn't have put them in that situation, and just, like, perpetuated all of those talking points that we always get.
Yeah.
But then to have him turn around here and be like, I had an epiphany, they called it basically a nervous break, I will never be able to, like, forgive myself. If we don't have that, we don't get the details about what happened, right?
Yeah.
If he's not apologetic, we don't find out.
Yeah.
Because he's willing to tell what happened with Nina, he's willing to tell what he's done with other clients, he's willing to, like, show that side of the system that's broken.
Yeah.
In that, like, he got bonuses when he got people off, he, like, went through trash. With social media, all they needed is one picture of her drinking, and it was over for, like, whatever girl,
And, like, it's so sad how true that is.
Right.
Like, but yeah, the fact that he was broken when she shows up is so unexpected for the
Yeah.
audience at this point, and unexpected for her. She doesn't play her
No.
character this way in any other scene, because she's on guard right now, but not in a, like,
Yeah, she's surprised, right? Yep.
Yeah.
She wasn't anticipating this at all.
No. Yeah.
And she's still, like, not sure, right? She's
Yeah.
not sure what's gonna happen.
Like,
Here he is, like, spilling everything. And she's kind of like, uh-oh.
Yeah, for a second you think he's gonna go dark, but that's not what it is. He's just showing her the level of broken that he is just
Yeah.
from his own internalized, like, anguish over everything he's done, how he's contributed to this mess. Yeah.
I think, like, throughout the film, it does a really great job of, like, showing how, like, this one tragic incident, right? We're talking about one woman in med school. Something happened, right? We've gathered that to this point. Something happened with the men at her school. And so far we think, like, maybe she dropped out, they're not friends anymore. Something happens with her. But we see Cassie's broken about it. Her parents are, like, going through something because Cassie's going through it. This man is clearly, like, losing his mind over this case, but, like, several that he's had to do just like it. We're just, like, seeing these ripple effects of how, like, that one tragic incident is not one person. It's not one person gets hurt, and it's not like one person was the good guy and the bad guy, right? It's
Yeah.
just, like, so widespread, and throughout we get more of it, right? Because later we get Nina's mom.
Yeah.
And what happens at the very end of the film, it's even worse, right? We see that
Yeah.
the tragedy just spreads and spreads and spreads.
The fact that she allows herself an emotional release there is really strong because we haven't seen that from her at all. And that is the first time you truly see her let her guard down in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that she still makes good for this guy. You have no idea what the fuck this guy's gonna do. Like,
Yeah.
what was his plan?
I mean, look at him. You assume he was going in there to break some kneecaps,
Right?
right?
Yeah. He's got this gold Rolex on and, like, yeah.
Yeah, but she's visibly, like, shaken after that encounter, after what happened with Connie Brighton's character. You kind of feel like she is even more listless than she was before starting whatever this little plan was.
Yeah. Excellent Molly Shannon as well. Like,
Again, both her and Jennifer Coolidge in, like, very, like, subdued, more serious roles that you don't expect give perfect performances.
like, I've never seen her give a performance this restrained, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Because even when she was on, like, White Lotus, there's a lot of White Lotus photos.
That's true.
But even when she's on White Lotus, she's playing kind of large. But this is just so real. And they could have gotten, like, a no-name to do this. But the fact that they have somebody like this, it's really drawing your attention to what's being said. Because you're waiting for her to kind of go large with it. But when she doesn't, you're seeing and hearing exactly what's being said.
And I think it's kind of the same situation with the men in their roles as, like, good guys elsewhere, bad guys here. Molly Shannon and Jennifer Coolidge are these women that we know for having those over-the-top and, like, very, like, comedic and physical comedy stuff. And so then to, like, see how they aren't, it's almost like inputting into our brain, like, that whatever happened in this film took that from them, right? Like,
Yeah.
something happened and they are not those fun-loving, like, over-the-top, loud, happy women. They're kind of these somber and quiet women.
Yeah. And that can, like, go for her, too. She usually, in general, Carey Mulligan, has quite a bit of energy in her performances and stuff. And this one, she doesn't. She's sapped of it. And that's the whole point. And when you get the glimpses of the more traditional, like, performance, when she's with, like, Beau, especially, and I believe it's the next scene, that we have her with Beau. Like, it makes
And the
that
wings
more
again.
dramatic.
Like
Yeah,
wings
damn.
are angel wings. But this is, like, where she has that moment with Molly Shannon, Nina's mother, and she has that moment with the lawyer, and she's kind of, like, taken two people from this situation to task, and she sees that Al's bachelor party is coming up, and she makes the choice to delete that social media, right? So she wasn't on it before, she's back off it. She's, like, deciding not to keep going with this obsession. She's gonna leave it alone. She gets rid of the social media, she throws away this little book here.
And when she throws away the book, they move the camera so that the wings weren't there.
Yeah.
Interesting. But keep going.
Yeah,
sorry.
we're just like, she is done with it, right?
Yeah.
And here she is, she's gonna go try and make peace with Ryan. And so it's kind of like she was gonna be done. And that's a thing that, like, breaks my heart almost more than anything else.
Yeah.
Once we get to where the film is going. But, like, she was gonna be done. She was ready to just let it go. She had that moment with Nina's mom, and she said, just move on for all of us, you know?
Yeah.
And she was gonna do it. She's here to do it.
Man, like, she's really lovable in this scene when they're talking about the racist on the 8th floor, and she's like, oh, perfect, and does that little smile thing. Like, they do have, like, great chemistry. They play off each other so well. How come he doesn't act more? Like,
He's very anxious, and, like, you saw with, like, Inside,
Yeah.
where, like, it took him, like, he stopped doing stand-up because he was getting panic attacks, like, on stage. So I think he doesn't really love that limelight all the time. Maybe in a film it's, like, a different situation, though.
Yeah, I don't know, because he's so natural and so perfect, which I don't know if he'd be pleased hearing
Yeah.
that about this character, but
When he was much younger, he did a show, I think it was on MTV, it's called Zach Stone is Gonna Be Famous, and I think it's on Netflix.
I've heard of that show.
He's much younger, like maybe like in his 20s, like early 20s, if that. And it's just like about a kid who's like hired a camera crew after high school to follow him around because he wants to like make his own reality TV show, and he like tries out different professions of like being a DJ and a singer, or like he wants to have like a haunted house show, or, like he tries all these different things to like try to get famous. And I think it's very like very Zach Stone is Bo Burnham, like it was a very obvious thing.
Yeah, interesting. I've heard of that show, and I remember the promos for it.
It's silly.
No idea
I mean,
that was him.
It's dated, obviously, but it's very silly.
Yeah, totally.
I think this is where we get like the other very obvious Halo situation.
Yeah, the Halo shot in this is
so good.
a great frame. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
it's
just
so good.
yeah.
If they didn't have this poster, I want that on a poster. Like,
I wonder if that was like intended to be the poster, and then the marketing came up with
Yeah.
this. I mean, this is
it's so good.
tremendous.
I just love them. I love them. I want someone to call me a miserable asshole. It's just so cute. I hate it.
He does it in such a likable way, because another actor could say that line and it would come off
Yeah.
like horribly offensive, but
He's so endearing.
yeah, it works. They also sell the fact that like it doesn't look weird that he's 1.5 feet taller.
I do like when they're on their first date at the beginning, where he's like, do you look like my daughter? And she's kind of like, excuse me? And he's like, because of the height thing. Like, that's one of my biggest fears, is that someone might see me kissing you and think it's a child. And I think it's so funny.
That was a good line. You almost have to shoot him at a Dutch angle to get them both in the frame. Yeah, this scene was so cute, and
so
oh, I love it. I'd forgotten that Paris Hilton dabbled in singing around the same time as like Lindsay Lohan and whatnot.
Oh my god, that's so right. All of them did it for a hot minute.
Yeah.
He just like doesn't take himself seriously, like at all, in the best way. Like he's very serious about this character
Yeah.
in being like unserious.
Yeah, totally. And you get this like cute montage that you always get in these kind of like rom-com movies, and it totally it just pulls you to him. Again though, you get like the exceptional lighting from the neon there.
Yep.
I don't know if they brought that in or if that was part of it or what, but it works because it goes with the whole vibe of the whole rest of the movie. This is where she starts getting into
So
it.
how long into it are we? Like over an hour?
Yeah, let's look at the thing. 1 hour and 7 minutes.
Yeah, so like you're kind of like, okay, this is wrapping up, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe one other little thing will crop up somewhere, you know. But like I feel like the biggest hurdle is over, right? If this is a rom-com, we've like hit the little disappointment, we've hit like the big disagreement that we don't know if we're gonna come back from, and we've hit the reconciliation, right? And we're in the honeymoon period, and so we're kind of like maybe it's gonna be done. Maybe we're done,
And it
and they're gonna
shows.
be together forever.
Yeah, well, and it shows in that scene too that her friend has accepted him, who
Yeah.
we've only seen before have like the slight
Yeah.
confrontation, where she's being very protective.
And like he's meeting the parents, and they're so happy that like I guess having a boyfriend makes you a normal person, so she's normal again.
Yeah.
Well, you know, clearly, she was in med school. She dropped out of med school and has been living with her parents for 6-10 years
Yeah.
after. And so they're just like happy that this failure to launch that she had
Yeah.
is like wrapping up, gonna be over. They feel like everything's behind them.
Yeah. Oh, this scene is so awkward. I like this line here. Your parents must be very proud.
No.
They wanted me to be a DJ. I laughed so hard at that. The fact that they have no response.
I think it's great. You didn't tell them I was funny?
Yeah, I like that he takes offense to it.
No. Oh, not that rich. I love it so much.
Yeah, they're so good. And he's also like an out of left field kind of performance. You usually get him as I know him from like Starship Troopers, where he's kind of the dude barking orders and stuff like that. And oftentimes that's how you get him, is very stern and hard, and he's really not that guy in this at all.
It's such like a dad thing to be like, hey, do you know this one doctor? You're a child doctor. Do you
Yeah.
know her child doctor?
Yeah, 100%.
I just love that question. Are body parts different on children? I love it. Because like you kind of get that, you know, funny, dumb
Yeah,
comedy back.
yeah. I also really like their silverware. It looks like something out of like Hogwarts or something.
Yeah. I think like this whole dinner scene, and then especially this one with her dad here, is like one of those like snowball of tragedies, right?
Yeah.
That you're just like, ugh, it could have been, you know, what could have been, right?
Yeah. And the thing is like, she did nothing wrong,
Right.
like to dematerialize the relationship on any front, really. Yeah, this is like that one scene that is really awkward because this is the what could have been moment.
Yep.
Wow,
Oh, he's
this
back.
cat.
He's back. So dramatic, Lokes.
Yeah. All right, so this premiered at Sundance in January of 2020. It actually was released on video on demand 1 year later in 2021, and that's how most people probably saw this, because most of the country was so
Yeah.
shut down. But it was released in theaters on Christmas Day against Wonder Woman 1984.
To be fair, this is way better than that.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing.
Yeah, just saying.
Let's see here. What else do I got? Oh, I do like their little moment here. The I love you moment.
I think I'm falling in love with you. I think I'm falling too. And he's like, I want to buy you a bicycle. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so stupid and funny.
Yeah, I like how excited.
I'm gonna buy you a bicycle.
I want to know if that was something she wrote or if that was an improv line. Oh man! And then bringing back the "Stars Are Blind" song there. And this is the turn.
I mean, you know, as she just said, shit.
Yeah.
Here's Madison to ruin everything.
Yep.
But of course, it's not Madison who ruins everything, right? Madison is like finally here to do the right thing.
Yeah,
and
like
it breaks her.
yeah. In all honesty, the thing that she set out to do with Madison is to get Madison to talk, to open up, and to reconcile with her own personal wrongdoing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that now it so much more affects her than she ever expected it would.
Right.
And
Well, because we get Madison, right, who thinks that, like, maybe a similar situation has happened to her. And, like, that's exactly what Cassie wanted, right? She
Yeah.
wanted her to feel that vulnerability and that, like, fear. So that she knew exactly what she was, like, telling her supposed friend to just, like, get over and that it wasn't real, you know, and to move on from it.
Yeah.
And so here we're like, okay, maybe it's fine. But in Madison's like attempt to again come clean, there's more information that like Cassie was never aware of.
Yeah.
And because of that, like that's the thing that breaks her. Not necessarily like Madison coming back in general, but
Yeah.
like weirdly Madison trying to do the right thing and giving her all of the information about what happened.
Yeah.
And, you know, she can't come back from that. But we got some more wings, if you were wondering. All of these couches.
Yeah, for real.
They like keep getting lower though, right? Like they're almost falling off.
The other interesting thing with this is the very real reality of information doesn't come out at the time necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Some people hold on to it
Yeah.
for much longer, and that's one of the biggest problems that people will point to is like, well, why didn't you say anything then or whatever.
Yep.
So this doesn't feel inauthentic in any way. This feels real, because she just, for whatever reason, held on to this, and she can't even justify it herself. She's like, for old
Right.
pictures or something or whatever, and she just tosses that line aside so well.
Yeah. And she even says like, I was kind of hoping that it wasn't real.
Yeah.
That I had just like made it up. And it's, you know, it's almost like she just, again, because it didn't happen to her, it was a situation and an experience that was easily just like taken and removed from her college life, right? And she got to move on because it wasn't a big thing to her.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the, like, where the movie gets to be so hard, because this is where it hits you as an audience member personally.
Right. And I think, and obviously, like with this video, when she watches it, we don't ever see it. We only get the audio,
Yeah.
which is perfect.
Yeah.
But like that's when we know exactly what happened to Nina, right?
Yeah. And it would have been a disservice to show anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I am grateful. And I remember sitting there in the theater when you start hearing it, I was like, please don't show us a second. Like, that'll just
Right.
ruin the illusion that this movie is concocting.
Yeah, and I think that also like speaks to why we didn't have like that very first scene in the beginning of the movie that like shows the thing that happened and
Yeah.
then the repercussions of.
Yeah. The restraint involved by Emerald Fennell to tell this is admirable, because in so many demonstrably like obvious other movies, they always show it, and I don't know why there's that need.
Yeah. And like we're muted, like we said, but the audio of this is really what like breaks it, right? Because like in about a second, she hears a voice that she wasn't expecting. And so now, like what we said earlier, we were hoping that at his apartment, that was like the Ryan moment where we're like, oh no, she thought she could trust him and she couldn't. She gives him another chance, and look, he's a really nice guy. And then like we get hit with something just like soul crushing, right? There's no coming back.
When I saw this in the theater, the gasp
Gasps.
from the auditorium was like shocking.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see if that was replicated, and when my theater eventually played it, I work at a movie theater, when it eventually played it, I timed it out so I'd go in and listen. Every time there were like just
Every
a
time.
sudden intake of like, no, because you are so hurt by hearing his voice. And they don't even call him by name right away, and you know exactly who it was.
Mhm.
Oh, it hurts. And like her reaction here is so powerful. She lets it out for the audience. Oh. And this is where we get her to shift back into her
Yeah, like this is where whatever her little plan that she had, it elevates, right? It escalates immediately. Like whatever she had planned before and then gave up on, it's, 10 times worse now. She has no fucks left to give here.
Yeah. And the brilliant thing is how she plays it. Right here, she's still kind of like restrained. When he discovers that she knows, that's when she becomes kind of arch with her performance.
Well, and even like for a while, he's like, I wasn't there, and then he's like, wait, that's not me. I didn't do. And then.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
It's so. It's
Right there is the
bad.
turn where she goes kind of arch with her performance, basically throughout her rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And man, and she immediately like starts using him for what she can do.
Like now, from now to the end, she is like that woman that she is in the bedroom of every man who's just tried to assault her, and she stops acting drunk, and she takes him to task, right? That's all she is now. It's
Yeah.
just like that rage and that pain, and it's taken over completely.
Yeah.
But also in this scene, like once she starts like, she confronts him, she starts to like blackmail him to get what she wants. And he turns into the jerk, right?
Yeah.
He turns into that bad guy. So it's such a good performance of like his character throughout, because he's so good and so charming and so lovable, and we want them together so bad. And until we know that he was at that party, there's nothing to tell us that he could be a creep, right? And that's the whole point.
Yeah, the only glint of it we got is when he invites her to the bedroom, but he could have even been doing that relatively innocently or whatever.
And even like immediately when she's like, she gives the body language, right? She crosses her arms, she kind of steps back. He takes it back. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, was that too soon? Like, he backpedals immediately. So he's not pushing, he's not trying to coerce her. So you're kind of like, oh, maybe he just made an innocent mistake.
He looks like Lurch there. He's just so tall. No, yeah,
And like hilarious that he's a child doctor, right? Because she could be his patient. She's so tiny.
Yeah, totally. And like,
He goes to the waterworks immediately, and she just doesn't care.
yeah, I loved her. Like, I don't know, but her delivery on that is just
He
perfect.
didn't even do anything.
Yeah, he just becomes every guy who is the bystander. That is part of the problem.
Right.
And he fills that role so well. And then I like the like, thank you, Dr. Ryan, and stuff like that.
Yep.
This is where the amazing Toxic comes into play.
Yeah, it's so iconic now.
Yeah, and that song forever will now be associated with this.
Oh,
I cannot
absolutely.
unhear that song and not think of this. Excellent wig.
Yeah.
It matches her little fingies.
Her little fingies. That's what I'll do next.
And I like how when the film goes in the territory we're expecting it, it was advertised as like a female revenge fantasy kind of film, but has never really been that for the movie. It was subversive all the way through.
Yeah.
When it finally becomes a female revenge fantasy, it's not lost on me that she's dressed like a traditional male fantasy.
Yeah.
And that was like just wicked smart.
Wicked smart. It's very much like two fantasies playing out, right?
Yeah.
This guy's bachelor party is happening. This like sexy nurse with her vodka is coming. Assuming she's the stripper being hired to entertain these men, and also, it's possible she's going there to murder everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like, in our minds, so it's...
It's a creepy cabin in the woods, shot through trees. Like,
she's
all
so
of this
just, like, slowly and methodically walking up that drive, like, love it.
The visual language of all of this is a horror film. Like, this is
Yeah.
what you see in Friday the 13th and whatnot.
And, like, Toxic is even kind of like a creepy song, too.
Yeah, well, and the way that they play
Yeah.
it, especially.
Max Greenfield is here.
He is a gem.
Oh,
However,
God, so
he is
good.
in a different genre of movie. But that's perfect for this scene, right?
Yep.
She's playing out this horror, and he's in, like, American Pie style
Yeah.
comedy.
Yeah, he is in, like, a raunchy teen
Yeah.
sex film. And she's in, like, a cabin in the woods, right?
Yeah.
Literally.
It was great. I don't know who the actor that plays Al is. I don't know that I've ever seen him before.
So I think he's in Mad Men, which
Okay.
I think that's where I have seen him from.
I've seen the pilot. It was a good pilot, but that's all I saw.
Yeah, so it's not like completely removed, right? So
Yeah.
he's like an advertising exec, right? Buttoned up, like in the 50s, like very
Yeah.
prim and, you know, clean shaven, all of that, but like also probably having like 6 martinis at lunch.
Yeah.
And like this is a very like 2010, 2020 version of that man, right?
Yeah.
He's this like medical doctor, but like this is what he's doing at his bachelor party.
The insane eyes on these dudes.
Some of them with their tongues, I
Oh,
cannot.
I know.
Ugh.
These guys are just
Good thing she
so
has
gross.
gloves on. But like also it's because she doesn't want to leave fingerprints. Because she's gonna murder them all, right?
Yeah. That was such a, like, crude shot, but at the same time it's so fitting for what their expectation is. Yeah. Max, did you ever watch Hello, My Name is Doris?
Yes.
He's amazing in that movie. I really like him.
Yeah, Sally Field, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He is great in that, and obviously New Girl and whatnot.
Yeah. He's such a perfect like bro best friend, right?
Like, they could not have casted his specific character better, because he is the absolute wingman.
It's so you're like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, and you're rooting for her, but at the same time you don't necessarily want her to
Right.
fall prey to.
It's a very like dual thing, right? I
Yeah.
want it, but I don't want it to happen. I hope she kills him, but I really hope she doesn't.
Yeah, because she's become every bit as much of a problem at that point, right? And what are you trying to say with the movie at that point?
Right. And she's also like become that caricature that
Yeah,
the culture makes, right? Is
yeah,
these women are vindictive, they just want to ruin men, they're
Yeah.
hysterical, they're crazy, you know.
yeah. Yeah, geez. This guy, he plays it so nice too.
You almost feel like maybe he's changed, right? Because he
Yeah.
won't shut up about his fiance. He sounds like he really loves her. He doesn't want to
Yeah,
screw around with the stripper.
but even if you have changed, like, you can't not reconcile with that heinous act that you did that
Right.
literally ended this other person. And it wasn't just her life that ended, essentially. And they demonstrate that exceptionally well.
I
in
mean,
this.
to this point, we don't even know,
Yeah,
right? Not until he says it
yeah,
right here. We didn't know Nina had died.
yeah,
You know, at most
Yeah.
we knew that she had been raped and
Yeah.
that it was filmed, right?
yeah,
Until now, we didn't know that it actually cost her her life. Like, literally ruined her life.
yeah. It's, yeah. Like, the inference is there. Like, we all kind of got it. But it's important for him to say it. And it's important
Yeah.
for him to say it.
Yes, exactly.
but he also proves that he hasn't changed because he was so dismissive
He's
with
just
it.
like, she's dead, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that he doesn't recognize her, like,
Yeah.
obviously, the wig, the makeup, but it's
Yeah.
just so, like, you know, hitting the nail home of, like, they were such throwaway people to him.
Yeah. I like that she says I wasn't super fuckable back then. Ooh. Yeah, and she just wants it laid out. Tell me what you did.
Yeah. So up to this point, still, she's only conversing, right? She's
Yeah.
just trying to make them admit it.
Oh. He's such a sleaze, too. Yeah, like,
What?
they shoot her end like a horror movie. All the time, from the end onwards, from this scene onwards.
I mean, it's such, you know, it's every story, right?
Yeah.
It was a party, we were young, we were drunk, everyone was drunk, she liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, they hit all of the same things that you hear from every story. The pleading, I'll do anything.
Crying.
How she just doesn't want it.
I didn't do anything wrong, though.
Top of her class and she dropped out. I like how she calls him out on this too. I'd forgotten about that until I did my rewatch.
Yep.
That he was top of the class only because of their removal.
Yep.
And then his, like, every guy's worst nightmare, and she turns that so wickedly back at him.
Mm-hmm. And, like, the idea that a man's worst nightmare is
Yeah.
just to be accused of
Accused.
something.
Yeah.
But, like, the actual physical violation.
Yeah. Oh. That just makes your blood boil. I hate, yeah. And that's...
like, not that it needed, like, not that they both needed to be, like, top of their class for it to be, like,
Yeah.
a tragedy that, like, they dropped out, right? But, like, that points to, like, the title and, like, Connie
Yeah.
Brighton's character, where, like, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Well, at the time, that woman was actually a better medical student, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yet, the man still got the benefit of the doubt, right? The promising young man.
Yeah. And, when she starts talking about her as a kid, too, that's hard-hitting.
Right, we finally get, like, Nina as a person.
Yeah.
And not just a name and not just a victim, right?
Yeah. This is where she spells out exactly what she means to her. And I had no idea how this movie was going to play out.
No, nobody did. I'm
But,
going to tell you,
yeah.
just nobody saw any of it coming, right?
No.
Which is so brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is like, if you had given me 10 different guesses of how it was going to end, maybe I would have guessed in some way she would have died at like the hands of lethal injection or something like that.
Right.
Never, ever would I have imagined what is about to
Yeah.
happen. And
Yeah, even when it's happening and even after it's happened,
yeah,
the first time I saw it, I still wasn't ready. And even like the second time,
Yeah.
I think, I was like, no, something's going to be different. And this isn't how it's going to end.
yeah, like you're gripped with shock. And for the people that aren't a fan of this movie, I imagine it all hinges on your response to this scene.
Fair. I
Eh.
do know people who loved everything else,
Yeah.
and this scene is just not their cup of tea.
Yes. Yeah, I've talked to a few people about that.
But it's awful, but it's brilliant. It's perfect. It's, I think, the only way you can really end it. Once it happens, you're kind of like, how else was it supposed to go?
Yeah, and that was my argument. Like, the first time I saw it, I can't not acknowledge that I was disappointed. I wanted her to come out.
Well, we wanted like the full fantasy, right?
Yeah. I wanted her to come out the victor in some way. And I mean, ultimately she does, but...
Right. And I think like without that,
Yeah.
it'd be a different story, right? If we don't get what follows.
Yeah.
But like this whole time, you're like, she's gonna carve Nina's name on him. How appropriate, seeing as he got a tattoo of his fiance's name, right? And
Yeah.
she explains how Nina heard his name and not hers after. And then she starts and he breaks away and you're like, oh, don't worry, she's definitely gonna somehow fend him off. She's got a needle somewhere. She's gonna stab him with that scalpel. Like, even now, just watching her fight, you're like, she's gonna come back from it, right? She's gonna knee him in the nuts. She's gonna do something. Someone's gonna come in. It's not going
Yeah.
to be what it is.
It is...
And after a while, it's just so obvious he is killing her, right?
Yeah.
And it's not even, he's just trying to incapacitate her. He's not just trying to stop her from hurting him. He is trying to kill her.
Yeah. Like, at this point, as an audience member, you're still holding on to hope that she is going to come through.
I don't think I've ever been in a more silent theater
Yeah.
than these like 2.5 minutes. And it's exactly about like 2.5 minutes because Emerald has said like
I was
she
just
did it
gonna say.
exactly to the timing of like what it would take someone to be like smothered to death. Like, and she wanted you to feel that entire process, right?
Yeah, apparently her stepdad's a cop, is what she
So
said
he
in an
knows.
interview, and it was like, how long would it take to be smothered by a pillow? And he said 2.5 minutes, so she timed it in
And it's
the
just
film.
excruciating.
Yeah,
It's just him yelling and panting and her just flailing.
no cuts. Uninterrupted
Full,
shot.
yeah, full shot, panning around. Like the quietest theater I've ever been in for several minutes, right?
Yeah. And it's like this part right here where like you can argue for a moment or two that maybe this was just like an act of desperate passion to try to like he felt like his life was in jeopardy, he
Yeah.
needed to just stop. The fact that he makes sure
Yep.
says it all. He's already confronted the fact that she's dead, and then he goes down
Mhm.
again just to like make sure.
And like he doesn't check her. He
No.
doesn't touch her at all after this.
Yeah.
Theoretically, he could have, resuscitated her in some way or
Yeah.
screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed for help, even if like none of those guys were coming because they're drugged, right? But he does none of that.
That was such a wicked good shot.
So good.
Yeah, because even the first time I was watching it, I was like, she can't be dead. Like,
Right.
that's just not how this happens.
And then it just immediately goes, oh, it's been 8 hours, and she's.
Yeah.
And you're
She
like,
has not moved, but he has. That was epic, and the makeup work here of her blood is pooling in her hand.
Yeah. God, and this
Ugh.
is one of the best scenes of the whole film because literally he just killed her, right?
Yeah.
And we're all like reeling. And Max Greenfield comes in and he makes you laugh.
Yeah.
You laugh at his jokes in this moment, and you
Like-
absolutely shouldn't.
He puts his feet basically up on hers, and like,
And he's just like, how cliche is this? He's like, no, she's totally dead. And
yeah.
he's just,
I liked his line of like, what is this, a 90s movie?
yeah, you're being ironic. Yeah, so funny. Classic Al, killing the stripper. Oh
Yeah.
man,
Uh,
oh my god, and like, he's checking her, right? He hasn't grasped that she's actually dead yet, right?
yeah.
But when he does, just his reaction.
Yeah.
She's dead. And like the immediate like PR that he goes
Yeah.
into, right? The immediate like fixer. And he's like, all right, here's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, the thing that kills me every time is when he's like, "It's not your fault." That
It's
oh
not your fault. You
Oh.
killed this woman, it's not your fault. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, it kind of seems like it was. He's like, no, man, this happens to the best of us, right? And so, like, this is pointing to that, like, sticking together, right?
Yep. absolutely the
It was
reflection
an
of.
accident. Like, we're not
Uh,
we're not gonna admit any wrongdoing. We're not even gonna admit that she was here overnight. We're just gonna
yep.
the absurdity, right, of taking a body into the woods and burning it after this situation. It's so over the top because, like, what?
Yeah.
But you believe it in this moment that, like, that is exactly what these men would do.
Yeah. That's a very Michael Keaton shot. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, we've already seen their complacency, and we're about to see it again.
It's sort of like Emerald, like, just upping the ante, right? She goes like, well, if you're gonna be okay with murder, or if you're gonna be okay with, like, this rape, essentially a gang rape, right? Because I think
Yeah.
it's multiple men at this party. If you're gonna be okay with filming it and sharing it around and not caring that this woman leaves and then kills herself,
Yeah.
what's to stop you from murder, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's, a
Yeah.
slippery slope.
Like, her life ended, and you were comfortable with that, and, like, they do it again.
Right.
In just much more real terms, or willful terms is, I guess, the better term.
Right.
I like how nonchalant he is about it.
It's like they're just at a campfire, right?
Yeah.
Throwing stuff on. When
Like-
he kicks when he kicks her hand back into the fire, it's just,
Oh,
she literally meant nothing, right? Like, these women meant nothing.
yeah. Ooh. And then he's retching over it. Like, yeah, as I say, I don't know who that guy is. He might be in Mad Men or whatever, but, like, he is super good. Absolutely great in the performance. I also like how, kind of like the cops do, they don't, they confide in them that they were following their suspicions rather than the story.
Right.
They're not trying to get to the truth, they're trying to get to
They're kind of
what
like,
they suspect.
it just sort of sounds like she left and she doesn't want to be found,
Yeah. Like, they're not following the case through to the end of its actual ending. They're following the case through to where they want the story to fit.
So I love this scene too, because
Yeah.
this detective goes in to talk to this child's doctor, right?
Yeah.
A male doctor, about this missing woman, and he just, like, gives no attention to the fact that, like, Bo could have anything to do with it, right? He, like,
Yeah.
talks him up. He says, like, thank you for all you do for the community. He's
Yeah.
just, like, so nice, and he even, like, gives him outs when he's
Yeah.
interviewing him. He's like, so were you with her? When did you break up? Would you say that she's a little unstable? Her dad says she might be unstable. Do you think she hurt herself?
Yeah.
Like, and he's giving him these answers so that this man's not going to get in trouble, and my job's done.
Yeah. He's absolutely leading the case the direction he wants it to go. I like the symbolism of having the skeleton behind him. Like,
It's a tiny child skeleton.
it's on the nose, but it's also, he's already compared her to being a child once before. Like, it's on the nose, but
Yeah.
in, like, a kind of bemusing way.
And, like, Ryan has one more shot here, right? To
Yeah.
almost redeem himself by like, outing himself and saying, she told me she was going to this bachelor party. I gave her the address. But no, he says, yep, it's the work trip. And then he has washed his hands of her too, right? And you
Yeah.
are fully into, he's a bad guy.
Yeah. I totally thought he was going to be the one to out them. And I
Yeah.
thought that's where the trajectory of this was going to go. But I was already still reeling from the shock of her death, that when he didn't do it, I was so much more disappointed than I was when I even first found out that he was in on it. But then I was just like, well, of course he's going to
Yeah.
do that, because that's how these things go.
Yeah.
And, like, the ending of this just makes you feel so ugly.
Yep.
And he's lit harsher than he was throughout most of the rest of
Yeah.
the movie.
And he's sitting down too, right? You don't
Yeah.
get, like, his height.
His height's gone. He's not Mr. Smiley,
Mhm.
charming. he is very dreadfully serious, but also like he's shot as if he's in a like incredibly serious drama. Like if you would just pause that frame, you could say that's from like Law and Order. You know what I mean?
And now he's like, oh, okay, you know, she's missing what happened to her.
Yeah. This woman he supposedly loves.
Right, exactly. You're thinking like, you're still maybe thinking that he's gonna be the reason it gets like wrapped up in some kind of justice, right?
Yeah.
But you're literally just watching this marriage. He's at this marriage, knowing full well that probably the last people to see her alive or like not as a missing person, these men. And he says nothing, and he goes to this wedding.
Yeah. I feel so bad for that woman there.
The wife Anastasia.
Like, assuming she didn't know him from school or whatever, and didn't know any of this, this had to be the most traumatizing experience of her life. Finding out that the guy you just married murdered a person and is about to be outed for this sex crime from a decade prior, and everybody on his side at the wedding
and like all
knows.
of his groomsmen and like everyone in attendance.
They're comfortable with it, and they didn't say anything about it. Like, that's heinous. When this happened, I was like, oh my god, is she alive?
Right. Because you still haven't like internalized that it really happened.
Yeah, even though we've seen her body be kicked into a fire.
Yes, we saw her burned.
Yeah.
But you're like, okay, scheduled message.
There's the phone and the one person that she believes will do right by it.
I mean, it's the one person that she like truly saw any kind of like redemption in and like took any responsibility, right?
Yeah. Like, if the whole idea of this movie is kind of restorative justice, she's going and getting people to talk. He's the only one that volunteered to talk. She didn't have to do any provocation to it. So of course he's going to be the one to lay down the proverbial law.
And of course, we're getting Angel of the Morning at the very end, right?
We've seen like, her be an angel
angelic theme
and
through and through.
Haloified.
And like now it's even more like profound, right? Because she is dead. Like she's gone now.
Yeah, I rewatched this the other day, and I've had Angel in the Morning stuck in my head for a couple days now.
I think this is so sad.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously we saw Cassie running around the whole movie wearing her Nina, right?
Yeah.
And so she did find another friend.
Yeah.
You know, in whatever way she could. She confided in another person in friendship and has now left her part of that necklace with that person. Yeah.
There's really only two characters that come out of this in a particularly positive light, and it's her character, the fact that Cassie has deemed her good by giving her the necklace, and then the Alfred Molina character, who's the only one that's shown remorse or... that stuff's powerful. I like that like twerp starts running. He's just so good.
Yeah, Greenfield was like, I'm out. Gotta go.
He's so good at being like smarmy. And he's the only character that's kind of not playing anything different than he normally does, right? He is absolute fulfillment of his stereotype.
Yep, through and through.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to highlight My Name is Doris. He plays a very different role in that. He's great in that movie. Yeah. And this last wicked little stinger.
It's so bittersweet, you know?
Yeah. Boom. Yeah, what a mic drop move at the end. But, like, so the first time I saw it, I was a touch disappointed, and it took me about 2 to 3 days to kind of accept what I had seen as the ending. I don't know if that was the same experience you had. But
Yeah, I mean, being physically in a theater, seeing it the first time,
Yeah.
like being around strangers who like had the same like gasp moment when we find out that like Bo Burnham's character is actually a jerk, and then like as we all sat together for those 2.5 minutes in silence watching this woman be smothered to death, and like it was such a weird feeling because you almost wanted to like look around and be like, are we being pranked? Like,
Yeah.
have you seen the same movie that I have? And like,
Yeah.
it took a while to let it sit in because in that theater, like, you didn't want to maybe like let it hit you the way that like
Yeah.
it might later on because you're with a bunch of strangers and you've all just experienced this thing probably for the first time, right? So like on subsequent rewatches, like I've let myself like bring the knowledge of that
Yeah.
into the rest of the film,
Yeah.
and it really affects the way that like I saw certain things and how I
Yeah.
felt. So like once I did rewatch it, I felt better and about the ending and accepting it as like the really only the way it could have gone, because like really what else
That's
was gonna happen?
how, like, about 2 days after I watched it, I finally came to terms with the idea that, like, even if she does out them or get her revenge on them, no matter what, she's going to be vilified, openly and publicly vilified by either, like, brushing her off as being, like, just an accuser and, look, you're ruining my life, or she's a murderer because she claims this, but there's no proof, and she's the visible monster, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, at the end of the day, there's no justice that could ever happen unless she goes down. And that,
it's almost like it needed the sacrifice of also her life, right?
Yeah.
Because no one was going to take it seriously unless like something significant enough could be proven.
Yeah, and that's the sad truth about like our society is if the victims are alive, they are questioned to the validity of what's going on.
Right.
But if there's a dead victim, as seen with like Law and Order SVU, I talked about just a little bit ago.
There's no question.
Like
them
this
being
person
the victim,
is,
right? They're a victim of being murdered, right?
Yeah.
But anyone says I'm a victim of sexual assault, they're like, well, prove it. And like, in what's it like? What was the case? What were you wearing? What were you drinking? Where were you? Who was there? Do you have proof? And as the lawyer says, like his job was to basically bully the person into taking it back, or in Nina's case, bullied her until she killed herself. You know?
So once I intellectualized the ending, and I was like, there really was no other out organically in the story that doesn't feel like an actual fantasy. The thing that feels the most realistic is if it goes down the way it does. And while that's not satisfying, it's real, and that's the important message you need to come away with, because you've just spent 2 hours with this person.
Right.
And it hurts you so bad after you've already been hurt and let down by this character that you liked that was complicit.
Yeah, because it feels like she doesn't win, right? She doesn't succeed.
Yeah.
Like, obviously she's dead, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, she's not a winner there, and, like, no one gets out better. Even, like, her friend, who is, like, good, right? She gets that necklace. She's not better. She's gonna find out that Cassie was murdered, and, like, everything else that has happened in her life, going back to Nina, is going to come out,
it's
right?
It's
gonna
all
be like
gonna
this
come
big
out.
media storm. So there's like not one person who's not affected by what happened for the worse, right?
Yeah. And whether or not, we don't know what her parents know, but the fact that they painted her in a light where police were unwilling to follow suit on this until it came through these alternative channels that she herself had set up, her story was going to be a cold case, and her parents have to deal with that.
Right, just the not knowing, because they were not going to keep looking. They were going to say probably she left. She might have hurt herself. She's clearly not in the right state of mind. You know, case closed.
So this is a movie that definitely demands a second viewing. And I'm glad that it's one that I have seen multiple times. And if you saw it once and were dismissive of it or didn't like the ending, you know, you're kind of not alone. It's important to go back and rewatch it, because this movie is saying incredibly powerful things, more succinctly than I think any other movie that's ever tried to touch this has.
It's not like gregarious
Yeah.
and like in your face and like hitting you over the head with the message that it's giving.
Yeah.
And I think it still is a revenge fantasy in that, unfortunately, she probably in the real world would have wound up dead and then nothing would have happened, right? It's because she's so smart and calculating, and we've seen her like plan all of these things, that she established that backup plan and
Yeah.
like knew in her heart that there was a chance she wasn't coming back from this.
Yeah.
And like almost played into it. Like I think maybe a part of her went in there knowing she wasn't going to. Not
Yeah.
just like maybe, but like I'm not I'm not getting out of this. So she set up those things that puts into motion the justice.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't happen like that in real life.
Yeah,
right?
like-
So it's still a fantasy, even when she dies, it's still a fantasy that like
Yeah.
we're kind of like, yes, right?
Yeah. I want to know what her like actual end game was. What was it?
Yeah.
To go in there and kill everybody and then probably herself, or like did she? Because she said to everybody that stuff, so she knew that she wasn't going to be able to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
So like what?
Yeah.
What was it that she was going to do?
I
Because
mean,
it sounds
she
like she
does-
just wanted to cut into him.
It does. Yeah. It sounds like she just wants to like brand him with
Not-
Nina's name, so
not
that
to kill him.
he has to carry around the same like level of like remembering every day exactly what happened, right? And she sends that note to the lawyer that says, I'm going here at this time with these people. If you don't hear from me, here's all of this.
Yeah.
And she sets up like the messages to go out at a certain time. So you're thinking like if she does this, if she just drugs everybody, carves Nina's name into this guy and then just leaves, right? Because theoretically he would have just been handcuffed to that bed all night. They would have woke
Yeah.
up, found him there, and what's he gonna do?
Yeah.
Tell?
Yeah.
Gonna say that she didn't? No. And so if she does leave, she has time to unsend those messages.
Yeah.
She has time to go to the lawyer and say, hey, I've taken care of it in the way that I needed to take care of it. No need to worry.
Yeah.
So like theoretically there is an out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's shocking to me that Emerald Fennell hasn't done any follow-up to this at all, right? Like, is she still involved with killing Eve? I've never watched that show.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she still is.
Because my understanding was she
I think
helped
it's
develop
ended.
that show
Yeah.
and she left it to pursue this movie. Yeah. One of the other things I found fascinating was the words rape and sexual assault are never spoken in the film.
No,
Yeah.
not one time.
That blew me away. And let's see. Emerald Fennell is the first woman to be nominated off a debut film as a director, and is grouped in as the only time two women were nominated the same year for
Yeah.
direction. And only 7 women in total.
I was gonna say normally it's none at all. So they were like, let's put 2 in, and then they're like, we're good for the next 10 years.
Yeah. One of them won. We're fine.
It's fine.
That's true. Yeah, there's no female directors nominated this
Yeah.
year.
I
Bummer.
mean, if there was ever a film to like achieve those things, it was this one, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that it's a first like debut.
Yeah. Like this
'Cause
is a strong.
It's so succinctly done. It's like end capped again, nothing extra.
Yeah.
It's just it is what it is, start to finish. Well made story.
Yeah. The fact that like nothing against Nomadland, but the fact that Nomadland won over this movie kind of breaks my heart because that's such a. It exposes the age of the voters, right?
Yeah,
That's a movie about
that's
a
fair.
woman who is older, who is in a crisis, and just decides to leave everything behind and live on her own for a year, packed up singularly in a single unit. Not lost on me that the movie came out in the year where everybody was forced to hole up like her and carry
Yeah.
on as a nomad.
Very fair.
And it's just like, had that movie come out and there was no pandemic, would this one have performed stronger? Because I don't think that the voters would have related to that movie as much. and maybe they would have seen more of what this movie was saying.
Yeah.
Tarantino, and I know he's not the greatest person to talk about, always said the movie that wins Best Original Screenplay is the movie that should win Best Picture.
That's very fair.
And he's not wrong. He also probably said that because he's won that twice. But at the same...
Both can be true.
Yeah, at the same time, I can't think of examples where he's really wrong. And more often than not, you don't see the screenplay winner actually take Best Picture as often as it should anyway.
Yeah.
And this is an example of that.
Well, I think, like you said, it goes back to, like, the audience, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the audience that this was targeted to is not the audience that, like, Nomadland was targeted to, right? And it's not the audience that's voting for the Oscars. And as you said, like, the audience for this film were staying home, like they should have been, and not throwing fits about it and still doing things the way they want because they're stuck in their ways, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that is the viewer... ship is quite different, and I do think that had there not been a pandemic and this had been released in April of 2020 like it should have been, vastly different.
I think you'd see what you're seeing with Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's a movie that lingers in people's mind because it's so powerful, and it would have carried through all the way to the end of the year.
And it's something you want to watch again and again, and I feel like you get a little bit different, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. There's no way you're picking up everything on one viewing of that.
No, absolutely
not.
not.
And this, once you know what happens, it changes the way that you watch it too.
The whole film is reframed.
I would love to see it for the first time again. Do you know, like, to have all of those, like, very big, like, gasps and shocking moments. But I think knowing really makes everything else just so much more poignant and, like, heartbreaking because you know what's coming and you almost are like, maybe this time it's not going to happen.
I also had this strange experience of, upon this most recent rewatch, even though I've seen it a couple of times and already know what's going to happen, I tried not to fall in love with Bo Burnham, and you can't help but do so.
Say, did you fail?
Yeah, you can't help but not be charmed by that fucker. And like, it's
I wonder.
Emotional
I'll
play
try
on
that
you.
maybe the next time I watch it. I'll try and I'll be like, I know what you are, and just see what happens.
Yeah, like, he's so well constructed that even, like, upon second viewing, you are essentially her. You have put up all your blocks, and he still tears them down. And that's the, mark of an exceptional performance in screenplay.
Even at the end, when everything has already happened, right? We know he's a jerk. Cassie has died. We know that he knows where she was.
Yeah.
And probably what has happened to her, and you're still like, just say something and it'll be okay. Like, we're ready to forgive him still.
Yeah.
Or, like, you know, give him a little bit of leeway. If he just, like...
He's not as bad.
Yeah, if he just gives us, like, a little bit, we'll forget that whole, like, gang rape thing happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if he was just willing to talk to the cops, we would have been able to say, he's bad, but he could have been worse.
Yeah.
He's not those guys.
Yep.
He wasn't there.
Yep.
And
oh my gosh, it's so real.
Yeah, and making the audience turn into exactly everything that this movie is trying to strip away.
Yep.
And it hurts. But yeah, so anyway, that's Promising Young Woman. I was really excited to do this with you and whatnot. My favorite movie of this decade so far.
Yeah, obviously, I'm a big fan. This, like Matt said, the actual poster from his theater, and I begged him for it immediately when it came down. I was like, please, can I have it? Because I'm obsessed. I love it so much. Big fan. So excited to get to do this.
It had been months since we'd actually physically seen each other because...
COVID?
Because of COVID.
Again, COVID.
So I had this hanging out for months, rolled up for her.
Yeah.
I was very excited to give it to her. This is not me giving it to her. This is her bringing it back into my life.
Right, I brought it back over. Framed it, brought it back.
But yeah, did you have anything you wanted to plug or just anything?
No.
Right on.
This was great. Thanks for watching films with us.
Yes. We'll be doing, or I will be doing another commentary track again next month. Unsure of what that one is, but I have a couple really fun ones coming down the pipeline. And if ever you are interested in doing another movie, let me know. You're great at doing this. So
It was fun. I had a great time.
thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.
Bye.